Hello and welcome to this very special podcast for our BA Cinema final major project. In this podcast we will discuss our experiences over our 3 years studying cinema at the University of South Wales. We will dissect all things from our modules and assignments, as well as the pandemic's influence on our studies and our growth and development as a wider group of film students. My name is Eddie, and joining me today is the ever-entertaining Bill Astle.
Hello, listeners.
The beautifully wise Morgan Bates.
What's up?
And the endlessly lovable Jake Canning.
Where am I?
So myself, Bill and Morgan are all part of the production team for this final major project, but Jake is our wonderful guest from the programming team.
Yeah.
So Jake, how's programming going?
Yeah, not too bad. A lot of meetings at the moment. That's
Yeah.
about it. And a lot of back and
Questionnaires.
forth with the students about, what they'd like to show in the exhibition. It is a pain, I'm not gonna lie, but that's just how it.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
How the cookie crumbles, I
That
suppose.
is just how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
That's
the way the cookie crumbles.
How's production going?
Yeah, production is going well. I mean,
Good stuff.
we've got in place our interviews. We're recording this podcast, and we're making good progress. I'd say. Would you boys agree?
I would like to say so. We know what we're doing in terms of the actual website. Obviously, we've making good progress on getting the interviews actually done. So I would like to think so.
Yeah. Seems like this major project is going swimmingly thus
Yes.
far.
Thus far.
So for this podcast, we want to talk through our experience on our course, and so I guess it makes the most sense to just kick straight off with some of the modules we've done. We've obviously done a varying amount of modules over a few years on the course. So, does anyone have any particular favourites that stand out to them?
Screenwriting.
Obviously, in anticipation for this podcast, we sent out a questionnaire to our fellow students asking some of their favourite modules also, and by far the most popular one was, of course, screenwriting. So,
Not
Jake,
surprising.
as you mentioned it, would you like to get into the nitty-gritty of screenwriting?
We can do whatever we want, practically, as long as it's within the format of screenwriting. We have Nigel as lecturer, so we've already won in that respect.
Very true.
Other than that, it's just been really fun to just not be shackled by academic work, I guess. I don't like academic writing, so screenwriting was the obvious choice for me.
Yeah.
The 55-page script was probably the most fun I've had.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
It was a very nice experience, very cathartic experience.
Very nice.
It allowed me to really find out what I wanted to pursue, especially last year, in year 2, was when I sort of really knew that I wanted to pursue screenwriting, or creative writing in general. So yeah, I'd say that the screenwriting modules have been great, because they've just allowed me to, and a bunch of other people, I know a few of my friends, a few of our other friends, want to pursue screenwriting as well, just because they've had so much fun with modules. So yeah, that's really all I have to say. It's been great.
Yeah, I suppose one of the benefits of this course is that we have these creative modules and range of assignments that allow us to produce work in new creative ways that we may not have tried out before, and like you say, find new ways of loving it.
Yeah.
Well, I would definitely agree with screenwriting, because by choice I'm not a creative writer. I prefer the kind of actual criticism of films and sort of medias like that. So screenwriting, not necessarily a course for me, but I think just the general approach that was taken with it, I actually did find it very enjoyable. Even though I didn't do the 55-page script that you would have done in the year that's just gone, because with obviously I wrote a dissertation to write instead. So I don't necessarily have major experience with it, but what we did, I did find quite enjoyable for what it was.
Yeah. Morgan, how did you find your experience on screenwriting?
I really enjoyed it so far. It's after that, the 55-page one, I feel it was more freeing to do rather than the previous 2 ones we did, because it was still fun to do, but they were only 3 pages and 10 pages to do. So like it was for me felt quite restricting, because like I had thought of a feature film in my head, but like I could only do like one scene, or like I had to really condense it down. It's not really like the best sort of thing.
Yeah.
But with this one, I did it more because it was more personal for me to like write about like stuff about my stepdad's business and stuff. And of stuff is like he's going through with like someone he's known for over 21 years. You know, he's known him longer than I've known him really. So it was something nice to write more personal and bring out.
Like completely kind of based on your own experiences. So it's the principle of like write what you know, I suppose.
Yeah, it felt quite like a breeze to go through like the stages of what was going on and interviewing my mum and sometimes my stepdad and like what events took place and like and just put that to script and hopefully it shows. But that's what I can do really. But I really enjoyed my time on the script writing.
I quite like the variation that we had between the years, like slowly building up to that 55 page. Because as much as I love the 55 page, I'm still really proud of like the 10-minute short film we did last year. I think that's some of my best work. Obviously we haven't got our marks back yet at time of recording for the screenwriting 55 page assignment. But I'm still really proud of that. But I think every assignment for screenwriting that we did offered a new sort of avenue. I guess a new sort of learning curve. Because you can write, you can struggle just as much with the 10-page script as you can with the 55-page. Or you could breeze through the 10-page script and the 55-page script is like a pain for you. Or vice versa. They're completely different formats.
I agree with that because when I remember doing the 3-page script in first year and I thought, I really love this. This is really fun. And then like when it got to 10-page, it just, I don't know why, but I just found it a lot more stressful and difficult. Having more limits for me was a bit more, it allowed me to think about how to scale everything down a bit more. Whereas when I got to 10, it was like, oh man, I've got too much. And then I can't scale it down. So I was like, I don't know. It was a weird parallel.
Pacing a full episode of television is hard.
I can imagine it must have been horrible for 55 page.
Bro, like I only did it this one as like a pilot to a mini series. But because there's still stuff going on, I just add into the story. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, I if I do that further, I can just make a mini series out of this stuff, you know. So it's just like, it's just annoying, but is what it is. But there's more stories for me to tell. So.
Very true.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting that you mentioned being able to tell personal stories, Morgan, because another very popular module amongst our questionnaires was the first-person filmmaking module that we did this year. So how did you guys feel about being able to, I guess, present yourself or a version of yourself on screen?
I personally had quite a good time with that one because I just say, I'm not necessarily a fan of screenwriting itself, but the actual like rest of the filmmaking process, I actually do quite enjoy that, especially editing.
Yeah, you're an editing guy.
Editing's my sort of area of choice. So I really enjoyed kind of having the opportunity to visually create something that represented myself through sort of a very direct means. So I really enjoyed the kind of process of producing that.
It was weird seeing you with short hair in that film, not gonna lie.
That was that was
a very sweet picture of
that was about 6 years ago.
6 years ago.
Yeah, that's the sweetest I've seen you.
Yeah.
Definitely. You such a young and innocent boy.
I was sweet 16.
You were.
Then, so.
What happened?
I can only speak for myself on that, though. I'm not sure if you three lovely gents have anything else to say.
I can say this about the first-person filmmaking module. It taught me that I don't like making films.
It taught me that you're a very good actor.
Yeah, well, what can I say?
Yeah.
I was made for the silver screen.
Yeah, no.
But being behind the camera, having that deadline, the editing, I found out, I think throughout the course of my whole experience doing BA cinema, especially like video essays and stuff, I just don't enjoy editing at all. It's the most tedious thing on earth for me.
Fair enough.
I get migraines after migraines when I edit.
Oh.
It's
That's unfortunate.
it's not fun. Obviously, it's some people love it, like Bill. But first person filmmaking, I'm not proud of what I made.
No.
I envisioned to be better, but I just didn't have it. I just didn't have it in me to make it that. I didn't have that filmmaker's sort of touch, I guess. I'm more of a writer. But more than anything, it just taught me that editing sucks. I hate it so much.
It's interesting that you brought up though that like you kind of had a different vision to what you actually produced though, because I remember Eddie in particular had a kind of similar issue with yours.
Yeah, I'm very much in the same boat with you, Jake, where it was just I had this one idea in my head, and then just the longer the module went on, I realised I can't make that, and so then I had to scale it back down to something else. And even when I scaled it back down, I was like, okay, I like this idea I've got now, but then I didn't like that either in the final product, and so it was just the module was I loved like the academic side, like writing our scene analysis, and then like watching the films on the module, and like the workshops were fun as well. It was just the actual stress of the filmmaking assignment for me was just not fun.
Yeah,
I suppose
that was just like me getting in my own head, like, you know, self-doubt, but like still
I had that too.
I think that's the problem with when you have like time constraints and obviously like limited budget, because obviously we just students after all. You know, we can't exactly go ham on a project like this. We kind of have to be semi-realistic about it. So
I think it was the timing as well. I think the timing of like the over Christmas period, like
yeah, definitely.
I don't think it helped very much.
No,
but you know, at the same time, where else are you going to fit it in? I guess
exactly. Yeah.
But obviously, a lot of us had a lot of stuff going on over Christmas. So that didn't help.
Yes, we had the script writing to do on like the
we were doing our 55-page script at the same time. So we were bouncing back and forth between that, and I really wanted to get the script right, which is why my film focus. Sort of like suffered a little bit. Okay. Like if you were doing the advanced screenwriting module, you'd probably focus more on the short film because that's more of your sort of your avenue, I guess. But yeah, to each their own, really.
Well, moving on to like the more kind of, I guess, film focused modules, so like ones focused on specific locations of films or like eras of films or waves of films. Were there any of those that stood out to you? For me personally, the ones that come to mind are New Hollywood and the British Film and TV module, just because the films and what we watched on those modules really connected with me a lot personally. But I don't know which modules you guys thought were most beneficial to you in terms of the films and eras that we studied.
I would say probably New Hollywood would be my personal favourite, just because that's my kind of, throughout the 60s to the 70s is a lot of my kind of cinematic niche, I find, especially because that's when cinema started to explore. I wrote about this in my essay for New Hollywood. It's kind of where it started to explore a lot more taboo themes, sort of depictions of like sex and drugs and rock and roll, stuff like that. Kind of in like Easy Rider, sort of Clockwork Orange, weird films like that, and that's my kind of like I say, cinematic niche. So I found that very personally engaging because it targeted my own interests.
I think what was so nice about it was that, like, because like you say, it's like it's centered around the late 60s and 70s, so you've got like great filmmakers during that period like Terrence Malick and people like that who were just some of the best. And then but also with like our study of postmodern on the same module, like it also meant we could study more contemporary filmmakers like the Coen brothers and Fincher and David Lynch as well, so like filmmakers like that I think speak to a lot of people on our course. I think that was really great for us to be able to study those films that we know and love anyway, and then also similar films that we hadn't seen that we also found a love for. Like for me, watching The Long Goodbye, which is now one of my favourite films like ever. Like
I still have to get around to that
stuff
one.
like that. So good. So I think that was a really good module. Do you guys have any favourites?
I can't remember the specific module, but when we first came to university, one of the ones that stood out to me the most was Rear Window. Because that was my first time seeing Rear Window, and I think the script for that film is insanely good. It's brilliant. I think it's my favourite Hitchcock.
It's mine far and away.
I love it so much. I think it's so good. And it was so interesting to watch it for the first time among people that have already seen it. You know, talking to you guys afterwards, you're like, oh, you know, it's alright. It's not Hitchcock's best. I'm like, what?
No,
it's Rope for me.
It was
Rope's
fantastic. To be fair, I watched like a few Hitchcock films before starting uni just to kind of better educate myself on classic Hollywood, I think, and I think Rear Window was one that really did stand out to me as excellent. So I'm glad you're like on the same page as me on that.
Amazing film.
Rear Window's a banger.
I've only seen two of his films. I only saw like Psycho and Rear Window. That's only that point. I still need to get around to watching stuff. But
Yeah.
but
Watch
with like
Vertigo. Vertigo's great.
Oh, actually, yeah. Sorry,
I
I changed my
strongly
mind.
see
Vertigo's is
Vertigo.
best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Vertigo.
Vertigo.
Vertigo was my favourite before I watched Rewind.
mentions
Yeah.
Vertigo and now he's changed his mind.
Yeah, I forgot. I completely forgot about Vertigo. Vertigo is his
Um,
best.
Yeah.
I think with New Hollywood. Sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like I connected more with them films because they're people I've seen more when I was growing up. Because
Mhm.
like for me, the first year especially, I found it difficult to connect with the films we were studying on the module because they were all the films I haven't seen and I haven't really got around to. They didn't really interest me and such. But
Yeah.
I think with these ones, they just like okay, I can at least get behind these films and like at least enjoy them. Especially like I know Rewindow's like still technically like in that transitional period sort of thing, but like that's
Mhm.
still a good film. But on and all, but I much preferred the New Hollywood
Yeah.
films on the module,
Yeah.
just because
Yeah,
like
for
how
sure.
modern they are for postmodernism.
Yeah, and in the questionnaire we did as well, that was like by far the most popular of like the film kind of movement focus ones. Like
Yeah.
most people
Yeah.
mentioned New Hollywood as one of their favorites.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's
And then to go back to Jake's point about how much he loved Rear Window, were there any specific films across the course as a whole that really spoke to you? Ones that like have stuck in your brain and like you just really loved being able to watch and study?
I mean, I remember probably my personal favourite piece of work that I've produced over the course of the last 3 years is probably the global cinema video essay that I produced based on the film Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. So obviously that appeals to my I'm quite a big fan of like martial arts films, especially wuxia films like that, so Chinese adventure films, and having the opportunity to talk about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon and its impact on international collaborative filmmaking. I thought that was a really kind of excellent experience being able to do that.
I need to watch that film.
I
really do.
You'd really like it.
Yeah,
I think you would love
Netflix.
it.
I tried. Netflix doesn't have subtitles
Yeah.
for it,
Oh.
and it doesn't. It doesn't have the. No,
Oh,
it doesn't have the
that's
dub
terrible.
either.
That's
so-
that's terrible.
Yeah, that is
yes.
awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's always the worst. Like when the subtitles like are not even on there, you just can't.
Yeah.
Well,
enjoy it.
I'd understand if the dub was on there, but the dub's not even on there.
I
Oh,
can't
yeah,
watch.
that's
I can't watch
So-
a dubbed a film though because
No,
like,
not
I
me.
tried.
No, no,
no.
I tried to watch.
I'm an
the-
anime watcher. Trust me.
I
It's,
tried to watch the
Not fun.
the Raid on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot to change the language back from from Indonesian to English, but it was set to
Yeah.
English, and like when the lip sync's not right, it's just
Yeah.
like, what is this? Like,
Yeah,
I need to like at least I can read subtitles and actually watch what they're saying and it's actually matching up. But
it's quite.
Yeah.
It's jarring in like live action films, especially or TV. It's just jarring to watch. It
Yeah.
takes you out of it.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think global cinema actually kind of had an impact on me in that sense, in that I'm a lot more appreciative of foreign cinema, especially though. Like I've always been a big fan of. I'm on the same page as Jake here. Watched quite a lot of anime, so I've always been a fan of Japanese media specifically. But global cinema has kind of given me more of an avenue to explore my interest in broader international films, really. So
Yeah, it seems like that's been an effect on several other students on our course as well, because in filling out our questionnaires, one of our fellow students, Jack Rundle, noted how the global cinema helped him to find appreciation for Bollywood films. I believe he noted Om Shanti Om as one that connected with him, and also some of the other modules as well. German Expressionism, he said he had a new love for as well. So
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think, a good thing about this course is that it has kind of opened our eyes, I suppose, to lots of foreign cinematic avenues that we might not have seen before or followed down before. that
There's a
we've now
wide
been able
range
to.
of stuff that's
Yeah.
been presented to us, and
Yeah.
it's helped us a lot. I think
Yeah.
find our tastes.
Yeah, exactly. And then we also get stuff that we know and love, like Morgan, I know you mentioned how in your questionnaire that being able to watch the pilot of Breaking Bad on the screenwriting module was something
Yes.
that you
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much enjoyed. Obviously, Nigel, as we all know, is a huge Vince
Avid
Gilligan
lover.
fan.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Vince
yeah.
Gilligan is the modern Shakespeare, according to this man, and he's not even wrong.
No, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
He's
He
correct.
is 100% right.
So I imagine as a fan of Breaking Bad yourself, it must have been fun to like hear from someone like Nigel who
Yeah,
like,
it was-
has that same passion.
It was really fun. Because I watched a show, I think the summer before we started uni in the first year. I think I watched it in April. So I did like a binge watch the whole show. Loved every bit of it. And then when you got to like the premises and stuff and the character, what's it called? character profile.
Yeah.
And all premises and stuff. And when he like said, "Oh, go watch pilot," I'm like, okay, watch the pilot. And then I was like, you know what, I might as well finish the series again.
Yeah.
So I watched the whole series again. So I got a bit carried away.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, just if it's something that you love, and like, because I remember on that day we were like so all in sync of like what he wanted us to like pick from each bit of the profile, and he was like, oh, I'm really impressed with you all and stuff. I was like,
yeah.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. This show.
Yeah, I think it was always fun when we got to like do stuff that I think some of us would have a personal connection to. Because like for me as well, like on the same basis, like the British film and TV module spoke a lot to me because there was discussions around British sitcoms and Doctor Who, and you guys know me, my two personality traits are that I watch Doctor Who and I watch sitcoms. So
you are a funny guy.
Yeah, what can I say?
You weren't here for this, Jake. Yesterday we tested Eddie, and he had his back turned to the TV. We had a list of episodes, like every episode of the reboot series behind him, and he got every single episode right with a few like minor blemishes here and there. So like he's not joking when he says that.
Unusual skills, put that on your CV.
Yeah. It is my hidden talent.
This man's a walking Wikipedia for Doctor Who.
Yeah, I literally am. But anyway, yeah, so with all these films, obviously we got to create a lot of various assignments. Bill mentioned a video essay before. We've also mentioned scripts as well. Were there any other specific assignments that you guys enjoyed making to reflect what you'd learned about these films or what you loved about these films?
I did a video essay on The Office and Spaced by Edgar Wright. I can't remember what.
Two great shows.
Oh, no, I remember that. It was basically because Edgar Wright did The Space with like Simon Pegg and all that, and then he did Shaun of the Dead afterwards. It was like a good comparison in between them.
Okay, cool.
It was I can't remember the term, but it's something to do like he was a scriptwriter for TV, and then he went on to do a film which like they coincided really well with each other. And I remember that's why I liked doing that.
Oh, nice, yeah.
I didn't even know that. That's quite cool.
Yeah.
I think for me, I really enjoyed the film conference myself because I know that's one that quite a lot of people think quite highly of, sort of in the quality of the work they produced and just the overall theme of it, because the film conference was essentially focused on the theme of hybridity, but that's a very kind of broad, almost kind of nebulous term in that you can make whatever you want of that. So like I know between the four of us here, I know mine was based on a genre hybridity with the kind of merging of horror and comedy with American Werewolf in London, one of my favourite films. So I loved having that opportunity. Eddie, I think you were like mixed media with like marketing, right?
Yes, I did mine on transmedia marketing with like Blair Witch Project and the Cloverfield films, which was so much fun because I think part of what I love about the like Blair Witch and the Cloverfield franchise is just the way that it's kind of it builds up a conspiracy in itself with like people questioning how much of it is real, even though none of it's real. And so I think that was super interesting. So film conference for me was, I think it might be the work I'm most proud of on the whole course, because I think, like you say, it was like, I think having a theme like hybridity just allowed everyone to just do whatever they wanted. And I think it wasn't too broad, but it was broad enough where you could just go run wild with it, really. I think everyone created, I think, really interesting pieces for that module.
Yeah, I'd agree. I didn't get that like as good of a grade as I would have liked to on that, but like I was still pleased with the overall work that I'd done. I think the main problem with mine was more a sense of originality, because I think obviously American Werewolf's quite I think it's like about 40 odd years old at this point, early 80s it came out, so obviously a lot of the stuff that can be said about the film already has, and I was kind of ignorant to that at the time, but I'm still overall pleased with what I was like able to produce with it.
How about you guys? Did you guys have any specific assignments that like you're perhaps the most proudest of, or just enjoyed making the most?
I'd say my global cinema essay on Pan's Labyrinth, because in college I studied Pan's Labyrinth. I did a full essay analysing that film in college, and I wasn't in enough of a state to care in college to really make my best work. So I think revisiting that really helped and really gave me a greater appreciation for the film. Because after college, basically how things are structured, they really basically made us lose interest in the film because we would just go over the same things over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But rewatching it and being left to my own devices to sort of pick it apart and dissect it and restructure it into an argument. It was really nice. It was just really really cool to revisit something that I'd done in the past and sort of built off of what I already knew.
Nice.
But I also like the sort of the options we had as well.
Yeah.
So I knew going in I was going to talk about Pan's Labyrinth, but I can't remember what you guys did. I think Eddie. What you did?
I can
What
hardly
do you do?
remember now.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago.
Yeah, I can't remember myself, to be honest.
My essay, I think, with global. Oh god, there was the Asian polymorphic? No, what's the term? Polycentric, something like that.
Oh,
Yeah, polycentric.
Polycentric.
I did mine on the raid.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, what else was there in there as well? I think I maybe did Last Samurai, but I can't remember unless those 2 separate essays. But because I really enjoyed the raid and it was quite because the director is Welsh as well. So
Gareth
Evans.
Yeah.
Gareth Evans.
Gareth Evans.
So I thought it was interesting. Like you can make a really good, Indonesian martial arts film but he's also someone from Wales. So I thought it was quite interesting to analyse.
For my global cinema essay, I was I also did Pan's Labyrinth and the other Guillermo del Toro film, Devil's Backbone. He's one of my favourite directors, so I really loved having the opportunity to write about. Well, first of all, expose myself to some of his other work because I used that as an excuse to watch his film Kronos as well, which is also fantastic. Just a really solid run of fantastic Spanish language Mexican produced films. I would highly recommend the Guillermo del Toro trilogy, but I was I was kind of using the Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth as a means to explore. I think it was something along the lines of the depiction of fascism in cinema, because Devil's Backbone is set against a backdrop of the Spanish Cold War, for example. Pan's Labyrinth is obviously World War II, and it's got the
Spanish Civil
so
War.
that is Spanish Civil War as well, is it? My mistake, excuse me.
No, you were half right.
Yeah, I was half right, to be
It's
fair.
definitely a war.
Yeah, it is a
100%.
war.
A war.
What is it good for? And,
Absolutely nothing.
But it was just great to kind of get the have the opportunity to explore this film that I'd always been passionate about, and again just explore it in a way that I never really considered before. So
And I've just remembered what I did actually. I did on German Nostalgie with Goodbye Lenin. That was what I wrote mine on. When that was quite interesting.
Is that the one with Daniel Brühl?
Yeah, with Daniel
Brühl. I remember that one.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was a fun essay to write.
Don't
'cause I
watch
just
The King's
got
Man.
to don't watch The King's Man.
Don't watch The King's Man.
Awful film.
Yep.
please don't.
Yes, and that was quite a fun one to write because I got to learn a lot of history along the way, and so it was as well as being able to write something about a film that I liked, it was also I got to learn a lot along the way.
Yeah.
So you learn something new every day, I suppose.
You kind of do.
Yeah, isn't that the beautiful thing
That's
about
sweet.
life?
Yeah.
I think based on our questionnaires, I think something one of the assignments that people really want us to talk about was our big individual assignments this year. So that was the 55-page script,
And
for me and Bill the dissertation. So obviously,
Yes, indeed.
do you guys have any further reflections on your 55-page script? Perhaps more on the process of doing it, perhaps the ideas behind what your script ended up being, anything like that at all?
Well, it's hard to explain the script, so I'm not going to do that. But I will say the creative process was very interesting. The way it evolves, I think, is such an interesting thing, and I think it's a perfect thing for me because me as a writer, I have ideas floating around in my head. I just put them down, and then obviously most of the time they're terrible and they need to be refined. But after that, that process of refining them and turning them into, a workable narrative, I think just watching your ideas change before you on the same document is so interesting.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because my my film first just started out as like a sort of hacker thriller, like a sci-fi hacker thriller, and
Okay.
it's turned into like a conspiracy sort of commentary on
Okay.
creation,
Yeah. Nice.
which is
Yeah.
you know, a far cry from what it was
Yeah.
initially.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because like you say, you just have those developments, I
Yeah.
suppose, and so like obviously you go from that idea to something, I guess, subconsciously you start
Yeah.
doing, and then that becomes that. And obviously, Morgan, you mentioned earlier how yours became was something a bit more personal to you, something
Yeah.
that spoke to you quite a lot while writing it. And I know you guys had to do, is it story research, script research kind of thing?
yeah, the story research.
Yeah. So what kind of stuff, like as Morgan, just as you like.
Mine was quite
because you
easy.
wrote
I just said, I
Did
got
you
it
have
from my
any-
parents.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, was there any like texts that like influenced
wish
such a
I had.
personal?
I would
writing
say,
basis?
I don't know. There wasn't much text involved. It was just more like, I was there when stuff started happening,
Yeah.
and then like I just gathered it over time, and it just kept
Mhm.
going on.
Okay.
But then as it was more, it just kept developing. Like it kept exceeding like past a pilot that I got in my head. I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
you know what, I might as well write about this, because I probably, if I didn't have, I probably would not know what to write about.
Yeah.
Because it was a pain to try, like, just to think of like the brothers film I did for the first and second
Oh,
year,
yeah,
because I did
yeah.
it in 2 parts
Right,
when they were
yeah.
kids. and
Yeah,
when
I
they were-
remember that.
Yeah, I
now,
remember that one.
That was a really interesting approach to take with
Yeah,
the
I liked that a lot.
like with the I think it's such a good way of kind of creating something
Yeah.
cohesive, and I imagine you save yourself quite a lot of work in terms of like creating the characters and
Yeah.
all that,
Yeah,
so-
I did have to like try and disconnect myself from the story, because I'm not like involved. I'm just someone who's hearing it
Mhm.
from the one side of it. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
from
Yeah.
but sometimes like when you hear like a story, when it's like, you hear like one side of it, and you're like, well, what the hell? Like the
Yeah.
other side sounds like
Mm.
they're just being like really evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to like go back and go through it, because
Okay.
like I tried to do 5 pages a day, and then when I got to like 2 weeks in, I was like, okay, I'll stop doing my first person and stuff. When I stop
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
I'll just continue
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I had to take a break in between mine to
Yeah,
So I'll
that
sort
was
the
the only
short
way I
film.
could do it.
Yeah.
That's the only way I could do it. But
yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause
yeah.
it's hard to I can't focus on 2 like assignments at once, which is
Yeah.
No, I
a
struggle
lot
with
of
that.
It's a
the
struggle.
a lot of the problems I've had with the course
Yeah.
have been revolving around just like
Timing. kind of
timing,
thing.
I guess,
Yeah.
because obviously having, you know, I'll use this year's example because it's fresh in my mind, but having the first person filmmaking
Yeah.
alongside
Mm.
something that I knew was going to be very important to
Yeah.
me and something I
Yeah.
wanted to be so proud of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just there was no competition really,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
one held my focus more.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think if I had one thing to say, or
Yeah.
one criticism, I think
Yeah.
especially this year, the big individual projects I think should have been
Yeah.
on their own. I
Yeah.
think we should have done maybe the first person filmmaking a bit earlier,
Yeah. I think I would agree with that. Yeah.
because there was just that whole back and forth. I'm the type of writer that has to write one thing at a time. I
Yeah,
cannot,
yeah.
because if I start writing something else, I'll
You'll lose
get focus
focus.
on that,
Yeah.
and then you sort of don't get invested in your own story,
Yeah.
and then
I see what you mean.
you kind of
Lose train of thought kind of thing. I
use train of
suppose,
thought.
yeah.
But at the same time, say like it happens to me all the time. But when I'm away from my laptop and I'm not writing about the story, I think of new stories, and they sort of
Okay, yeah,
override
Yeah.
what that's sort of like, oh, okay, I want to do this now,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's not good.
Well,
You have to sort of push that to the side, maybe write them down in a notebook or something.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, if we had that focus, I think
Yeah.
that would have worked better for pretty much everyone. Because
Yeah,
I know
I
a few people
mean,
struggled
yeah.
with dissertations
Yeah,
as
I was
well.
about to say, yeah, because I don't want to speak for Bill, but I know
No, of
for
course.
myself, like, that it was a struggle having to manage the dissertation as well, because the
I was
dissertation,
the same.
just like the script, is such a big piece of writing,
Yeah.
and you have such a kind of, you go in with like, right, these are my ideas, this is my structure, and then obviously then there's a film that you have to make, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well now I've got to think about the structure and timing of that, and then like, oh well, now I've lost the structure of the dissertation, so it's like
Yeah.
trying to manage both was a bit difficult. I don't know how you found it yourself, Bill.
I was quite similar
Yeah.
for myself, because it kind of reached a point where the filmmaking, it obviously, even though it was a project I enjoyed doing, it still kind of felt a bit like a distraction
Yeah,
in a sense.
That's how it felt for me.
a disattraction, if you will.
Because my obviously
You're such a funny guy.
dissertation is obviously, as the major project, it's intended to be a piece that's very personal. It's a piece that's like, this is what you are most willing to explore in terms of films. So mine was based on like Japanese cult cinema. Eddie, I remember yours was based on like British. What's the exact term?
British satire and comedy verite.
Comedy verite. That's the one.
That's a fancy one.
Yes,
It's
bit of French.
Bit of French.
What's
Deirdre
that?
would appreciate that one.
Just like pure kind of realist comedy. Like the example you used was The Thick of It was the main one.
Yes, the
I think.
work of Armando Iannucci.
Yeah.
And yes, I know you explored some very interesting Japanese films with
Yes.
lots of lovely gore.
Yeah.
Yes. Lady Snowblood, the classic.
Well, that was kind of what I was going for with mine. Was Jake and Morgan both said earlier about how their ideas kind of changed over time.
Yes.
My dissertation was kind of similar. I started out just writing about violence as a kind of broad concept in Japanese cinema, and then I realised I'm not bloody getting anywhere with this, so I'm just going to have to like kind of strip it back a bit. I'm going to focus specifically on these two films. Female Prisoner Scorpion and Lady Snowblood were the two that I ended up talking about, and through talking about those films in particular, my dissertation actually kind of took on its own theme of also exploring. I never would have expected I would write in depth about feminism in my dissertation, because that's not a theme that I'm necessarily qualified to talk about, I would say. But I think with the films that I was talking about, it just kind of came naturally. And I was very comfortable with writing about it in that sense. So I found the entire process of writing about that like just fascinating, all the kind of different angles that I was like, these are two films that are basically about the same concept of like revenge, and yet there's so many different avenues that I can take to talk about them. So I just found that like so kind of fulfilling, being able to explore two of my like absolute most like favorite films of all time, and just really take a deep dive into what makes them tick. Really.
In terms of the planning stage of your dissertation, I'm interested to know, was Japanese cinema like the only one you were considering, or did you have like alternative ideas? Because I know personally I had 3 ideas that I went in with, and then I narrowed it down to the comedy satire angle. So I'm just wondering if you were always dead set on that, or if you had like alternative ones that you felt had potential as well, just in terms of how you planned it and what made you go down such a route.
Japanese cinema was always my main interest to talk about. At one point I was quite interested in writing about potentially blaxploitation cinema, because we kind of touched on that a bit in the Cinema and Power modules. Sort of mostly action based with black protagonists, emphasis on soul music, depiction of black culture very heavily, and kind of the sort of how they represent black audiences. So before the dissertation I actually watched like Shaft and like Coffee and kind of all these classic blaxploitation films, because they were quite interesting, and I thought potentially in the wake of like especially Black Lives Matter over the last couple of years, I thought that
definite relevance
that could have been interesting to talk about. But ultimately I thought the like with a dissertation I had to just go with my heart on it, and my absolute most my most cherished area of cinema is Japanese exploitation and cult based cinema. So I think I kind of just had to get that, like just get that done, really, because that was just such a personally interesting subject to me.
I think like what was nice about the dissertation module was that like even though there was only 5 of us I think doing a dissertation from our course anyway, it was nice that I think everyone had quite an interesting idea, like your idea of course, Bill, and then like I thought B had a very interesting idea with her approach to female like revisionist horror stuff like that.
Sounds really interesting.
It sounds really cool. Because that's an area of films that I'm not terribly well versed in. I know she wrote about Raw, I think.
Yes, I think she's written about Raw, Law, is it, and Jennifer's Body.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
logged.
Oh, and Carrie as well.
She's logged them
Yeah,
all in
Harry.
their logs recently.
The
so.
there was a film. Did you just bring up the one with the mermaid?
Law, yeah.
That's Law.
Yeah.
Okay, that one looks interesting. But that's the thing. It's like
Yeah.
the great thing about dissertation, in the same way as screenwriting, is completely like no holds barred. So you can write whatever you feel, obviously within reason.
Yeah, because we've also got one on James Bond as well. And James Bond and like masculinity, which I think is a very interesting topic, because I think that's a big part of Bond, and like I think the more recent Bond films have obviously been like dissecting that in a way. So obviously that's a very interesting topic, and then also history and representation of dinosaurs throughout cinema sounds very interesting because that's obviously something that's developed a lot over time. And so I think that was very interesting. Did you guys on the 55-page script module? Did any of your peers have very interesting ideas that you guys like the sound of to like show how such an individual big project can lead to such a wide variety of creative ideas and exploration?
I'm trying to think on the other ones, because I know Jake's is quite interesting on the hacker side of it. From what I read when he asked for.
Oh, you read something that was very incomplete. It's so different now. It's
no, it was still like not about like what he wrote, but like what the concept of what you're writing is an interesting take. What were the other ones? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Was the module something? Do you think like you guys were kind of almost? Do you think some people like kind of wanted to withhold it in a way because it was such a, I guess, like something so individual to you each, or did you have quite a feeling of collaboration amongst you all?
Towards the end, towards the finalization of scripts and stuff, we were. I know I had a lot of talks with Alfie about his script. His script's really interesting. It's really like visceral, intimate sort of thriller. It's very like, it's not personal to him, but you can see that he understands the characters.
Yeah, I mean, I read a bit of Alfie's too.
Yeah,
I think it's obviously not necessarily based on like a personal story or anything like that, but I think you can very much see like the things that have inspired him for that. Like I think there's a lot of like stuff that I know Alfie's a big fan of in that script, and so I think that's really nice to see, like especially with part of your module being the story research element. I think being able to see just how other texts that I'm aware Alfie's a fan of, and the same goes for you as well, I think, Jake. Like you can kind of see those influences in your scripts, and I think that's really nice to see.
A lot of mine is well, my script is set in Japan, so a lot of Japanese cinema, but also cinema inspired by Japan, and sort of I'll just say it, Blade Runner was a huge influence on me. The whole just the setting and just the aesthetic of the setting, I think, really captured me, really drew me in. The sort of divide as well was really interesting to explore, so I put that in my story research, and also a few shows for my characters like Death Note. I had a huge influence on some of my characters.
American remake.
It better be.
Don't
like Turner.
Don't talk about the Netflix remake with Eddie here, please.
Well, I can imagine.
Underrated masterpiece.
I think I remember you bringing up Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yes, my favorite show.
Yeah, one of your like major influences as well.
Yeah, my protagonist of my script shares a lot of similarities with that of the protagonist of NG, just because that show's a masterpiece and the characters are insanely well written, and Hideaki Anno is a genius.
It's really nice to see like you guys able to
watch the show.
I will.
Yeah.
Watch it very soon, I promise. It's nice to see you guys like flex your influences a bit and show off what's inspired you.
Breaking Bad as well.
Breaking Bad as well.
Yeah, Breaking Bad I think is a no-brainer for, especially with Nigel around.
I imagine that must be.
I think I had that in my research as well.
I think we all did. We must have all did, because it's just such
just to please Nigel.
I was going to say, I think it's impossible to produce any kind of audiovisual or television production nowadays and not take influence from Breaking Bad.
Well, especially if you're going in depth with character, I think it's just it's compulsory, really. You can't not ignore. Sorry, you can't ignore just
Yeah.
how
Oh, yeah.
brilliant the characters are written
Yeah,
in
for
that
sure.
show.
Well, there's like the three hallmarks of television of like Breaking Bad, The Sopranos, and Twin Peaks. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you're gonna have
Yeah, alright,
influence
Twin
from one
Peaks.
of those. Well, it changed everything. But yeah, like you have like those shows are kind of the basis, and I suppose
Yeah.
if you're especially if you went down the route of the miniseries format, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the pilot episode, then you'll definitely, I think, naturally take inspiration from that. And like you say, especially with Nigel around, you're gonna feel the Vince Gilligan effect.
Oh yeah, of
radiating.
course. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I have the bobblehead he has in my brain at all times,
Yes, I can imagine.
staring at me through Teams.
As a reminder of Nigel.
Oh, cool. Oh, I don't need a
course.
reminder of Nigel. He lives rent free in my brain all the time.
Yes.
Shout out to Nigel.
Yeah, shout out to
Indeed, shout out to
Nigel. He's
Nigel. What a legend.
one of the best teachers I've ever had.
Yes.
Yes.
On a real note.
Yes. What a
Yes.
great man.
Yeah, great man.
So,
Great guy.
obviously with these assignments and stuff,
Yeah.
we've done these across 3 years now.
Yeah.
So naturally with that, I feel we've all made developments of some kind across the course.
Yeah.
So with the questionnaire we sent out, like people brought up the academic side of their development, so harnessing technical skills, whether it be editing or any form of production, really
Yeah.
like camera work, stuff like that, or just having a stronger kind of knowledge of the history of film or movements in film or even their own film identity.
Technicalities of, you
Yeah.
know, like just how films are made, I guess.
Exactly, yeah.
Just
And
a greater
then,
understanding.
so we had that kind of development, but then we also have other sides of development which people talked about, which was like just being able to develop a sense of community,
Yeah, of course.
and just develop, I guess, confidence, social skills like with each other.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I believe Dylan described everyone, and guess no everyone, as a lovely group of people.
Oh, he's a
So-
sweetheart.
That's
you
that's
know.
very nice. Thank you very much, Dylan.
I think he's lying.
He is, of
This-
course, included in
He
such
hates
a lovely
everyone.
group.
this podcast
Yes.
is now dedicated to Dylan.
If he's talking about
Welcome
Bill,
to
it
the
must be a
Dylan
lie.
Warner podcast. But yes,
He said most.
yeah.
Not naming anyone.
Yes, he put in brackets except Bill.
Yes. I would
Joking,
not
of
blame him
course,
if he
joking,
did.
of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, so how do you
Mm.
guys feel you guys have developed across our time on the course?
I think that the main area that I found my own skills have developed is just in my ability to articulate myself a lot better.
Mhm.
Yeah.
In terms of conveying how I feel about a film, how I feel about a TV show, a video game, for example. I don't know. It's just I found my vocabulary for like cinema developing vastly over the last like few years, and
Yeah.
it's just great in the sense that I'm now able to actually deconstruct my interest in like my favorite art form. So
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
it's really been a fantastic like opportunity for me in that sense. I imagine that probably holds true for everybody else.
Yeah, I think I'd
To a
definitely
degree.
say the same, because I think before I started this course, like obviously I knew I loved film, but I think knowing the specifics of film
Yeah.
that I loved, I don't think I
Mm.
quite knew. I knew I liked like creative stuff, but
Yeah.
I think it took me time on this course, and I think the New
Mm.
Hollywood module helped with this especially, for me to realise that I like kind of experimental, kind of visually expressive pieces of film.
You're an arty boy.
I'm an arty boy.
You are an arty boy.
And so that's very much like you said, Bill. It's like I've kind of learned what kind of specific parts of
Mm.
film I'm
Yeah.
super interested in, and it's harnessed that for
Mm.
me personally.
It's like you knew you loved film, but you didn't necessarily know why you loved it.
Yeah,
So it's
for
kind of
sure.
you've now like really been able to explore
Yeah,
that side of
yeah,
yourself, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you feeling the same in the same sense? So do you feel like it's helped bring you closer to film, I suppose, as an art form? Do you think it's helps you develop academia a bit, like academic skills as well?
A lot of how I've developed has been due to the situation we've been in
Yes.
past 3 years. So I'll
Yes.
save that for when we get onto that topic.
Mhm.
But mostly I've just enjoyed being able to get closer to you guys.
Yeah,
I think
Aw,
that's
of
been
course. I
Aw.
think, yeah, that is
you
very
are
much the biggest
indeed the
thing.
greatest friends I've ever had.
Likewise.
Aw.
Likewise.
Move aside, Dylan. The podcast now dedicated to Jake.
This is the Jake
Um,
Canning podcast.
This is the Jake Canning podcast.
We bring this anecdote for a message.
Yeah.
Now a word from our sponsors.
Yeah.
Greg's.
Neon Genesis Evangelion, the sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that.
Mm.
I think we have the benefit of being quite a small group,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
obviously lot of universities you'll find courses
Yeah.
with like 50, 60, 70 people, and you just can't really form strong
Yeah.
connections with that many people.
I
And
mean,
so-
I'm going on to do a master's in screenwriting, and I
Yeah.
know that the class is going to be huge,
Yeah,
and I just know it's not going to be the same,
yeah,
which saddens me. But at the same time, it's a new experience. So
yeah.
I'm not too down about it. But I'm very grateful that the course has been quite tight knit,
yeah,
because it's sort of been a
Yeah.
nice sort of bridge.
yeah. Because I
Very
think you could look at it and say like, oh, that's a shame that you don't like get like that many people like to know and stuff. But I think realistically, it's been great because we're all so close with each other now.
Yeah.
We're all great friends with each other, and we really have built, I guess, a community in a way. And like you say, it just like you're some of my closest friends ever, and like it's just great to have such a connection with you guys, because I think most people's university experience is not necessarily becoming close with the people on their course. It's more whoever they end up living with, kind of thing, through accommodation. And so I think being able to actually find people who we have the same passion with, and from that build such a strong friendship, I think has been really lovely. And I think that has been the best development for me, and like you said, Jake, as well, and I'm sure for most people as well. It's just been to quote Dylan again, it's been just wonderful to get to know a lovely group of people.
Well, it's really good as well, because I think that's part of the advantage of taking part in a course that is inherently hobby based.
Yes.
Because we're it's different obviously if you were to do a degree in mathematics or whatever, because
Hey, some of my best friends bonded over the number 4. So.
Well, it's like they
think they make groups based on which their favourite numbers.
Yeah.
Probably
Mine's 72.
Yeah. Part of the 72 squad.
Yeah. We're a niche group.
It's in a sense of like when with mathematics students, like necessarily they wouldn't go back and just talk about nothing but that, because that's not a hobby.
Yeah.
Whereas here it's like we're actually exploring something that is inherently a passion for us. So it's a great avenue, and I think because of that, when we all got to know each other, like the first few days were quite awkward because nobody knew anybody.
Yeah.
We didn't quite know our specific like interests, but we all knew we had an interest in film at the very least. So we were immediately able to find common ground. Pretty much. So
I mean, I think what was nice about like our icebreaker task on the first day, if you guys remember, was when we had to like find out 3 things about each other.
Yes.
I think that was quite nice, because obviously we knew film was what linked us, but that allowed us to kind of find each other's. Like I remember my very first conversation with Rid. He asked me, "Do you have an obese dog?" And I said, "Yes, Rid, I do." And so then we formed a friendship based on shared overweight dogs.
Rid was the first person that I talked to regularly in the course, and I think that shaped who I am today.
I am so sorry, Jake.
You poor thing. This podcast is dedicated to Rid and Murphy.
This podcast
or Rid and Murphy awareness.
Rid Murphy awareness. Please donate.
Yeah. I'd rather not, to be honest. Nobody should be aware of Rid Murphy. I'm joking, of course.
He's a lovely fella.
If you're watching this, Rid, then
I'd hope he is. We put a lot of time into this.
We have.
Stop joking.
Yes.
Morgan, do you have any reflections on your personal development across the years?
I mean, like it started really in college, like because I didn't choose creative media, and but when I started doing it, it was all like to do with like film and stuff, but it wasn't like in this dim depth. But then I started like getting a sense of like, oh, I actually quite like this sort of thing. And then when it came to this, I liked how tight knit it was, because I was a bit like, oh god, 70 students joking me. And then, but then like when it got to this one, like, oh, actually this one probably fit me more, because at least like you get a more like personal thing from the lecturers, rather than like having it just be a collective sort of thing. But having everyone have a same sort of interest in you, because like especially like high school, it's just pain, because like you just don't know who to.
High school is pain. Can we get that in a quote, please?
High school is pain.
Of like trying to find like who's like what hobbies like you all enjoy, but with at least with this, everyone has the same unified like uni is.
For sure.
Film is hobby everyone enjoys. So it's been like, because of that, it made transition quite easy for me anyway. So
we immediately know what we can all talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
Much, we've always got that to fall back on.
Yeah, mathematics.
I mean,
72.
Number 3.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do anything when I get back other than watch films, pretty much. So because I'm not,
give yourself more credit. You play games.
Yeah, you sometimes watch TV.
That's a good point. Yeah. So yeah,
James watching The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Am I actually?
Yeah.
I was not aware.
That's why you've got the yellow mic.
Yes. Oh, that's true. Actually,
Don't bring up The
Oh,
Simpsons, please. Be here all day.
I've done about 5 series of The Simpsons in 2 months. So
Episode ranking, please.
okay. No, I'll be here all day. But yeah, it's
Eat my shorts.
yeah. But that's the thing. It is in the sense that it is such an interest based course. It's like you say, Morgan. It's
Yeah.
we all know we can get along
Mm.
because
Mhm.
we're studying something that we're
Yeah.
all inherently interested in and like
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and of course, cinema, as we all learned in the first year, is a communal thing. So,
It really is.
Very true. Or is it a business?
Cinema is power.
Very true. Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Jake, as you mentioned earlier, we had
Yeah.
a fairly unique situation
It's one word for it.
university studies. Yes.
Yeah.
So obviously, the elephant in the room is the COVID pandemic, which
Mhm.
heavily affected our second year of learning and the back end of our first year as well, and has
Yes.
carried on over into our third year. So, it's really always been there, hasn't it?
Yeah. Fun.
Yes. It's like a family member that you don't want to ever have a conversation
Yeah.
with.
The
Just
big cough.
awkwardly in the room.
yeah,
Anyway.
COVID has
Yes.
definitely been a big change or a big thing to consider.
Yes.
In regards to it, I kind of don't want to talk about it because it's just going to be depressing. But
Beating a dead horse
You-
at this point.
you kind of can't
Yeah.
not talk about it. It's
Exactly.
like it has been so influential on
Yeah.
not only our group dynamic in that I
Mhm.
think because we were separated from each other,
Yeah.
I think that almost encouraged us more to become involved with each other.
Definitely.
Like we set up a group chat. We got talking more individually.
Yeah.
We really found ourselves getting closer as an actual group during COVID,
Yeah,
which is
for
obviously
sure.
fantastic.
Yeah.
But it really did. I think I can speak for everybody on this. Not that I would like to, but there's no other way to say it. It really did a number on my actual engagement with the course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Like-
sure. Well, it's interesting that you mention stuff like our ability to become closer, because from the questionnaires we did, there was obviously the main takeaway was just the negative effect on personal well-being, mental
Yeah.
health, connection to the course.
Yeah.
But then, the one positive was that we kept that regular online contact, and it just meant that we became closer. And so I think that was nice in
Yeah.
a way, but yes, obviously the big factor was just how negative it was, especially on mental health. I know a
Yeah.
lot of us have struggled with that kind of just isolation and separation from one another.
Yeah.
I remember the first time we all went to the pub again, stuff like that was just
Yeah.
so
Best
welcome.
day of our lives.
Yeah, it was just
I
wonderful, being able to do stuff like that again. And then I think what's been great this year as well is obviously some of us live together now, which I think is great.
Yes.
And it means that we don't have to worry about being stuck away from those
Yeah.
kind of moments with each other.
there's going to be even more of us living together next year.
Exactly.
So it's the community's just growing,
Yeah.
if anything.
Yes.
But it's I remember that there was one day in particular where everything was kind of opening back up. I think in a summer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
It was
I
in
think
the August. I
It,
remember.
it was. I remember it was. I went. Jake. I'm pretty sure Jake was
Yeah.
there.
Reed was there.
Reed was there.
Yeah.
Olivia and
Yes.
Morgan
Me,
as
yeah.
well.
Yes.
And I think it was just us 5. And
Yes.
Yeah.
we didn't even really do anything. We just I think we went to the park.
We just sat and
we went-
talked.
We went to
Yeah.
the pub. But that's the thing. It's just a sense of we actually had the opportunity to do that, and it
Yeah.
was just
for sure.
it was too good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just a shame that it did. I produced some of the work that I am least pleased with
Yeah.
during that second year, just because I reached a point where I could not be bothered to actually put any effort into it.
Yeah, me
I mean,
too.
I think there was only one module for me anyway that actually benefited from the situation. That was the film
Oh.
conference.
Yes,
I
I
think
would agree.
doing that online was, I think, really helped.
Oh yeah,
but-
I would not have been able to stand up in front
No,
of like an
nor
audience of
me.
people. And
No.
Nor me.
No, that
Yeah,
would be
no
too
way.
much.
Yeah.
Presentations on like Niagara
Mm.
Falls, like when I'm in
Oh,
front of the whole class.
Tell me about it.
It's
Yeah,
like, you got any questions, sir?
Yeah.
Sorry, don't mind me.
presenting is definitely one of my weaker.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff in here.
Me too.
It's different when you're talking into a camera though, because there is like that disconnect though.
Yeah.
And I think that
Yeah,
that disconnect worked in the conference's
Yeah.
favour.
Exactly.
But thankfully, it was pre-recorded that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we just
like,
had to sit and wait.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
it's-
much. Yeah.
At least like when it came to yours, like
and go to the toilet
let's go
when
for it.
yours came on.
Yes.
Yes. That's a good approach
Yeah.
to take. To be
That
fair.
is my approach.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I think definitely the rest of the modules I think were such a struggle. I think just with that feeling of isolation, the feeling just that we weren't getting a university experience.
Yeah,
Like it just felt like I don't know, we were just
Yeah.
doing random video calls. Like it just
motivation
didn't feel like
was
university
definitely-
at all.
It was so
not
like.
there in the academic side. The
Yeah.
motivation was just not there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But it was so disconnected from what we felt like we should be getting, and
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
obviously, like bless the lecturers, they did what they could.
Oh, yeah,
but it
for
was
sure.
like absolutely hats off to like every one of the lecturers for dealing with
Yeah.
COVID in the way that they did, because
It's an impossible situation.
it
Yeah,
really
it's
is,
like-
and
yeah, they did the best
know,
that could be done.
yeah,
And,
absolutely. So
Uphill
the
struggles.
podcast is now dedicated to the lecturers.
Yes.
So I think obviously they did everything they could to make it like as painless as possible
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
COVID, but they could only do so much. There was
Yeah.
we were still like isolated from everything, and
yeah.
it really was just
Mm.
like my life was in like a loop of
Yeah.
online lecture, go to work, do some
Yeah.
like uni
I
writing.
think second year especially was when it all
Yeah.
got a bit
Yeah.
too much. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
of the adverse where at the start of COVID and when we went into lockdown the first time, I actually liked it.
Me too.
I
lie.
actually
Yeah,
It was
I-
just the longer it went on.
Mm.
yeah.
just
But
got
when it
horrible.
got to like when summer ended and it was going into winter,
Yeah.
And that's when it sort of hit me.
yeah, I think I was
Um,
the same.
But the first half of our second year, well,
Okay.
like the back end of first year and then starting,
yeah,
well, not really starting second year, so back end of first year.
yeah,
I think I learned a lot about myself,
yeah,
about what I liked. I spent a lot of time just reading, just
Yeah.
watching
Yeah.
films,
yeah,
and I think that really made
Yeah,
my
same.
creative mind
yeah.
grow.
I think there were a lot of positives from the first few
Yeah.
months of lockdown,
Yes.
because for me it helped me just form a nice connection with my family as well, because
Yeah.
I'd just sit down and
Mm.
watch films like you said. Could just relax and play games like Animal Crossing had just come out, so that was fun.
And you've never played it since.
No.
Neither have I.
No animals be crossing today.
Has anybody played it?
It
Since?
was fun for 2 weeks.
Yes.
It was
but,
fun for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes, but yes, and then and then we also kept that contact ourselves. Like we got,
Mm.
Yeah.
I think that was around the time when we started to build that chat with each
Mm.
other. We started to play games with each other online, stuff
Mm.
like
Yeah,
that. and so
absolutely.
keeping such
Yeah.
connection was nice, and it was just the longer it went on, and just the more we realized, hang on, nothing's really
Yeah, this
changing,
is-
and we're
yeah.
stuck like this, and
Yeah.
we want to see each other.
Yeah.
The longer that went on, it kind of played on the mind a lot.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
Yeah, I think for me, screenings as well. It was such a shame.
I
It was
loved
having
screenings.
to
Screenings were so good.
just having to
To
the
watch a
situation was, oh, it's on Netflix. You can watch it on Netflix.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sucked.
and you just sit alone and watch on Netflix. Be like,
Yeah.
I could be watching this with people.
Yeah, and
it's
it
just-
was
it's such a
depressing,
shame.
yeah.
And
Well-
obviously, there's nothing that can be done.
Well, 'cause-
but
'cause-
it's just it's just such a shame.
Because that's the thing. Because now that we're back in with screenings, obviously back on
Yeah.
because we're back on campus,
Mm.
which is excellent. Because I think especially with we're doing our cult cinema module at the moment, and
Yeah.
that is inherently audience based.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think we've actually got the best module to be having screenings with at the moment, because the films we're watching are so strange and varied.
Strange is
and
an understatement, but yeah, go on.
yeah. Well, I mean, we've watched Rocky Horror Picture Show and Plan 9 from Outer Space, so I think that's all you
And
need
Crash.
to know. And Crash.
Yeah.
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 I can't look at a car the same way again.
I don't
Um,
think I could tear my eyes away from the screen.
but that's the thing. It's in a sense of I really think COVID made me realize you don't realize what you have until it's gone.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
Yeah.
I feel like we all kind of took it for granted that we were on campus, we were seeing each other, we could go to the pub after like lectures, stuff like that. We were getting the full university experience, but obviously while we were doing that, we weren't really thinking anything of it, because that in and of itself was like a status quo that we were following. Whereas when we had that taken away from us, it all kind of built up, and it kind of reached a point of like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, like why do we have to be stuck here? We just like, we can't go on like this.
Especially in the winter as well, because like during the summer it was fine, because I'd schedule my day. I'd sit in the garden, I'd read for like hours on end. I'd go for walks with my dog and my mum. You know, and in the sun, you know, when it's hot, it's nice. You've got a nice breeze. You know, it's idyllic. But when you get into like the autumn and winter,
especially
you
around a
can't
time
do anything.
like Christmas, where you associate Christmas with socializing and seeing people you love, and it's like you can't, and it sucks. It's awful. It
was my little sister's first Christmas.
Was it?
Oh, and
that's such a shame.
That's not a good one.
Well, I was there, but I couldn't stay very long.
No.
So that kind of sucked.
Yeah, because obviously like we've been so affected by university stuff that affects our learning, but it stretches out to just the simple things in life, and so that loss of just the simplicities plays on our mind.
I mean, when she was born
as well.
When she was born, I was literally sat in the garden. I got a text from my dad, and I was like, oh. Like all the magic was gone, just because I wasn't there. And it took me like 3 weeks after that to actually meet my sister.
Jeez,
that sucks.
Yeah,
it was obviously there, but I still look back on that period with sort of fond memories.
Okay.
Just because of how much I learned about myself, how much
for sure.
I sort of came to terms with things, how I dealt with things personally. But I think, like you said, as it went on, it sort of, you know, that sort of feeling started to fade, especially when the summer ended.
I agree.
I don't remember who exactly the quote can be attributed to, but I believe, was it Greg Davis did an impression where he said it was the worst of times and the best of times.
He did an impression of Chris Eubank.
Yes, that was it.
He's quoting a poem from.
How do I?
Is it Oscar Wilde? I don't know.
Probably.
One of those.
We're lowbrow cinema students. We don't know poetry or Shakespeare.
This is not an English literature podcast.
What's the word he says that you get into characters? He was a pugilist.
Yes, I was a pugilist.
Yeah, that was it.
It's a fat one on the ground.
But that's the thing. I think
this podcast is dedicated to Greg Davis
and Chris Eubank.
My taskmaster.
Yeah. And I think
he's not behind me, is he?
That'll be a twist.
I bring that quote up partly because it's funny, but also because I think it reflects quite well on what Jake was just saying. In that you look back on it with fond memories, and I think it's because you've been able to make it out at the other end, where it's like, okay,
it's just personal.
We did it.
Experience.
We've done it, but it's over. We're past that point.
I do miss it sometimes.
Yeah.
I do miss being. I do miss waking up. You know, not in a rush, but also still having that motivation to work on, one, yourself, and two, like what you want to do. Because that was when I started reading and watching films and watching TV during that period, and you know, I learned a lot about why I wanted to be a screenwriter. Because when you're stuck in the house and you miss all these things, all you want to do is write about them. That's what I had. That's the feeling that I had. So that was the sort of catharsis that I had during that time. Was you know, I had a lot of stuff going on. When quarantine began, and my way of expressing that was to just write and read and just take an afternoon off in the garden. But obviously life's got to move on. And,
exactly.
You know, be happy. I'm happy that it happened, but also what a crap time.
That's
every cloud.
Every cloud has a silver lining.
Yes, very well said.
Pros and cons.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's just the element of now that we are getting back into it. I think it's kind of had almost like a boomerang effect in that our second year was absolutely useless. We just could not be bothered with any of it.
Yeah.
But I think because we've been through that, I think that's affected the fact that we're now a lot more willing to engage with third year, because it's like, hey, we've finally got it back. We're here and we're doing it properly.
Thriving.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like we're thriving. We're thriving.
We do be thriving.
So,
We're thriving.
so I think in that sense, like in a weird way, as horrible as it was, and obviously, you know, that globally, so I think COVID kind of has had in the end like almost a positive influence on us, in that it's built up our work ethic. I think we're a lot more grateful for our current situation.
It's like the benefit of hindsight in a way.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
We see in 2020, we just like
Yeah,
It makes
2020 hindsight.
I see what I did. I see what I did there.
Very good.
Yes, but
Are you
because
sure you're in the right course? I think you should be a comedian.
well, don't think I'd make it.
I don't think I make it.
Couldn't really do it here because I'm sat down and not doing stand up. Thank you
Oh
very much.
my god.
He's on a roll.
If you want to click off, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't,
this is
I don't blame you.
where it all derails. But no, yeah, I think
We've lost
like-
Morgan. Morgan's gone.
Morgan is now
We've
ET.
actually lost Morgan.
But yeah, now that we're at the back end of it, I think, like you say, we can look back and think, I'm glad at least that I'm here. Like, I think physically and mentally as well. I think we've all, like, you know, to tie into our idea of growth and development across the whole thing, I think we've all grown and developed as people as a result of dealing with such a terrifying global crisis.
That
Big cough.
was an
The big cough.
That was an amazing segue, and I'm proud of you for that.
Thank you. I like to find avenues.
He likes Paul Blart.
I do love Paul Blart. He is my Morgan. And so I think we've definitely kind of we had the negatives, and the negatives were not fun, and we all suffered big time.
Yeah.
But we made it.
But we made it, exactly. Now we're here. The vibes are no
Yeah.
longer lackluster.
Exactly.
And we're some of us are living together. We're seeing each other regularly. We've got
I feel
good
like a Domino's
contact.
now.
Huh?
I feel like a Domino's now.
You feel
You
like
said
a
the
domino.
vibes were lackluster.
Oh, I see. He wants a pizza.
I do want a pizza. I am the Domino's man. They
Me
call
too, funnily enough.
He's
Well-
got other things on his mind.
I mean, I think
We need to bring Morgan back.
Morgan has gone. He is now possessed.
Where's Morgan? Some extra Eubank here.
This podcast is dedicated to Chris Eubank.
Again.
I think with that, really, I think we have covered pretty much anything, unless you guys feel there is anything else of note to mention across our time on the course, or possibly even outside of the course.
No, not from me.
No?
Not from me.
Morgan, anything from you?
Oh, I don't think I've got anything to share. But,
I'm gonna kill him when we walk out of this room. I'm gonna kill him on the way out.
My hands are shaking right now with just
rage.
pure rage. Morgan, what have you done?
I'm going to Eubank.
Oh boy.
I've completely derailed the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
I think we're good. I think
I think that's everything.
I think
Yeah.
that brings an end to our
So-
podcast for our BA Cinema major project. Do you guys have any final words you'd like to say to sign off with?
Make sure you stay hydrated, as I have been.
It's true. He's a role model. Morgan, or Chris Eubank, any final words?
Don't be a pugilist.
Don't be a pugilist.
Very good.
Words to live by, or die by.
Lovely.
Jake, any final words?
Where am I?
Where is he? Will he find out on the next episode?
He's still never found out.
Yes. Well, I guess all that's left to say is thank you very much for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you for engaging with this podcast. Thank you
Yes.
to the lovely guests to my right, left, and in front of me.
And thank you for being the host with the most.
Oh, the most what?
the most Eubanks.
You tell me. What do you have a lot of?
Comedy.
Swag.
Swag.
Who has the
yes.
most swag?
We'll go with swag.
The host with the most
Okay.
swag.
I've got my sweet style.
Yes.
Okay. Well, yes,
Yes.
thank you very much for listening. I think it's been very interesting to hear what you guys have to say and to
Yes.
reflect upon our time. And thank you also to everyone who sent in feedback to the questionnaires.
Yeah.
It's been very useful to give us
Thank
stuff
you
to
for
talk
writing
about.
it.
And yes,
Yes.
that is the end of the podcast. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
listening.
Thank you very
Farewell.
much. Thank you for
Farewell.
listening,
Farewell.
watching,
Bye-bye.
and wear your seatbelts.
Bye-bye.